It is my absolute pleasure to be joined today by author Janda Craig. She is the author of the newly released book, Forever Brother, a foster adoption story. I love it. I love it. So, Janda, tell us about this book.
So, this book is written from my 7-year-old perspective. And so, this is me, JoJo, in the pink, and my sister. So I was 7, she was 5 when my parents told us we were going to be a foster family. And I had no idea what that meant, but I was excited because my best friend's name is Julie Foster at the time. And I thought she was going to come live with us, but that's not what that meant. So we kind of we've learned along the way, my sister and I did, and I wrote this book to talk about the first of my brothers that we fostered to adopt. And so he is represented right here. So this is our family of 5 as it looked at the beginning of my childhood.
I love that. And I love that you turned it into, animated characters like that. I think it's adorable. I love it. I love dogs. So that even makes me better. So, what was that main point of inspiration where you decided, I am going to write this book?
Well, my parents, of course, were my main inspiration because I wanted to be an only child, but they didn't listen to me, which is good. Which is good because I'm the oldest of many children now. And I'm so grateful for that because I would have been a very different person without that. Most of my career I've spent working with children, and I would not have had that desire, I think, if not for my siblings. But more specifically, my own boys were the impetus for the book itself because I'm an educator by trade. I love to read and I love children's books. I still love children's books. And when my boys were the oldest, were about 2 and 5, in our family, they just didn't know. They didn't know that like other families weren't like ours. In our family, my brothers are adopted. My parents were no longer fostering at the time, but my brothers are adopted. I have cousins that are adopted, and it's just very common language in our homes and in our families. And I realized, we talk about foster and adopted and but when I was explaining to them really what that meant as preschoolers, I realized that I don't think that I had a book or anything that would really explain it to them in kid-friendly language. And so that's when I originally wrote the book. And that was about 20 years ago.
That's incredible. And I love it because you're right. There's not a lot of books that explain, the importance of that and the relationship there and really it's just a really it's just an amazing love, and a selfless act to bring in a person into your family and love them like your own, if sometimes not even more. I mean, because it's such a wonderful relationship. And so I think it's wonderful you've written this book to help people explain that to their kids. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today about you, your book, or the message behind the book?
Well, a few things. One, I want people to know that this was completely a family effort. My husband, after all these years, was like, we're getting this published, and really pushed me to do so. And I've learned a lot along the way. Of course, my parents were a huge inspiration, but I really didn't let them read the story till it already came out because they knew I wrote it, but I wanted them to be surprised, and I knew they were proud of me no matter what, because they're awesome. They're the best. My parents are the best. I know everybody thinks that, but mine really are. And then my siblings, you mentioned about the characters being dogs. So I wanted to use animals. I knew that because I want I wanted it to be really kid friendly, but also to appeal to a lot of different people, no matter what we look like on the outside. And so my siblings met with me. They decided to use dogs. They helped me decide on the breeds for the characters. And then because I'm the oldest, I have a lot of cutie patootie nieces and nephews. So when I was picking the illustration style, my 8 little nieces and nephews that were 5 and under at the time, they all voted. We had a family Zoom. They all voted on between my 2 choices of the illustration style, and it was unanimous, by the way. And then through this very long process, my 3 boys, which are now 25, 22, and 14, they helped me edit, and my sister was crucial. My boys and my sister, they went through many times with me where they were trying to help me get to a place where my vision, what I had in my head, came to life. And because they know me so well, they knew what I was going for. And the text is important. The text itself contains a lot of very foster and adoption specific words. And my best friend, who's actually a teacher herself, suggested to me and to include a glossary.
Oh,
so
nice.
In the back, there is a glossary of all of these very specific foster adoption words, because I have really 3 audiences that I'm really wanting to support with this book. I'm wanting all people to know that God sees us and he puts us in places where we are going to be able to glorify him. And I think that's a big place for that is in our families. Author Elizabeth George, this has always stuck with me. She says, what you are at home is what you are. How you are at home, that's how you really are. And so that's really stuck to me. So I really want to appeal to 3 different audiences. One, for children, particularly older siblings that are in a home where foster and adoption is happening, to give them some verbiage, some talking points, but also to I myself am an educator, and I worked with lots of different ages, and at church I teach preschool and babies, but I want children that maybe have no idea of this process and this verbiage. I want to normalize that, because what I've realized is if you are not in a situation where you're aware of foster and adoption, it's a pretty specific situation and verbiage, and I want that to be common or at least known of, so that if children at school have a friend that are in that process, then they have the background knowledge to at least be supportive and understanding. And lastly, one of the very cool things is we fostered my family for a private Christian agency in Texas, where I grew up. And also in my town, we have a children's home. And so this book I want it to be able to support specifically private Christian agencies that are placing student or children in foster care, and then hopefully maybe adoption if they're not able to go back to their birth families. And through very generous donators, I have been able to give, I think, about 70 copies of the book to 5 different agencies across the nation that they can then pass on to their families. So it's been a blessing all the way around, which was my intention in writing it. And I'm just very pleased, and I hope it goes on to support lots of families and children. And I would like to write 2 more in this series. So we'll see what happens. But I would like to write another one specifically about the fostering process, and then an additional one about making families, because sometimes whether you're foster or adopted, we have people that come into our lives that we choose to make and see as family and give us those familiar roles, and that in itself is valuable and okay. So I guess that sums it up.
Well, I think it's incredible. I love how this book was truly a family effort. It's a book with a great heart. It's obviously a ministry for you. Let's just call it what it is. And I think it's incredible. I think you're incredible. And we want to let everyone know that this book is available online everywhere books are sold. It's available on Amazon, online at Barnes and Noble, Reader House, Apple Books, all of those places. Pick this book up today. It's a great resource, a great teaching tool for anyone who is who's learning about foster care or adoption, or is dealing with that, or has a friend or family that's dealing with that. And we recommend everyone pick this up. And Janda, you are an absolute delight, and thank you for talking to us today.
It's my pleasure, truly.